welcome back to another episode of Genesis Does, and this is Socket. Although from looking at the label, you might think it says Suck It. And that's going to be very appropriate as we get into this review. This is a 1993 game from Tokai, and the entire Wikipedia entry for this game is less than 100 words total, with the key sentence being, "This game has been criticized for too closely resembling Sonic the Hedgehog." And they're not wrong about that, and that's why Socket can suck it. But this is Genesis Does What Nintendo Don't, so let me start with the fact that this game is exclusive to Genesis and Mega Drive, and probably should be. I would not dare put this on anything else if I were the developer. Originally, this game was called Time Dominator First in Japan for reasons that I have no explanation for, and while the programmers are uncredited, the composers of the music are Fumito Tamiyama, Yoko Suzuki, and Shigenori Masako, and they are the best part of the game. The soundtrack is decent. I wouldn't call it memorable or remarkable, more like serviceable. That might as well describe this game as a whole. It is serviceable, not excellent, not great, just a serviceable platformer that just barely gets the job done. Even the protagonist looks like he is serviceable, as in you could either service him with parts because he's a cross between some sort of robot and duck, or because he's wearing a ball cap that looks like he would be filling you up with gas at a service station. Ding ding, Texaco. That reference may be way too obscure, I apologize about that. But always trust your car to the man with the star, and don't trust anything you see here, just like the bee in apartment 23. That's the first thing I'm going to tell you about Socket and why it can suck it, because it encourages you to go fast with the title High Speed Area, but don't trust it, because every time you start moving fast, you're going to crash into an enemy. Now, when Sonic crashes into enemies at a high speed, he's often in a ball form, so he doesn't get hurt by that, because he can just bop the enemies as long as he's curled up or in that motion. Socket, on the other hand, has to shoot electricity, as you see here, and if he doesn't hit the enemy with electricity, it hurts. Not only that, you're losing electricity because you're this duck-robot hybrid thing, so you have to be constantly collecting these electric bolts, or little lightning bolts, whatever you choose to call them, to keep your power replenished. And if it runs low, you get this very annoying alarm that you'll hear later on in the playthrough. It goes, woo, 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 and the closer you get to death, the more annoying and faster it gets. Not exactly a charming aesthetic to the game. And another way that this could have been more like Sonic and been better is if you actually had the ability to ball and speed up. If you could crouch down and gain running speed and then get to run up hills like this, it would help so much. But you can't. You can't charge up your speed. You just have to figure out how to bounce your way from one bouncer to the next, and I hope you can finally make that jump and get over the top. If you could just crouch here and speed, it would save so much time. So they wanted to be like Sonic the Hedgehog, but instead of being a derivative game, it's just a badly designed game. And it's cheap in the level design too. As you can see, the bumpers kept knocking me back, and every time I would try to get momentum to jump over the bumper would knock me back again. I suppose one of the few clever things that I can say is that the start screen for every level has this pump that charges you up with electricity. It looks like a gas pump, but it's actually filling you up with electric juice. I kind of like that. Again, there are some things that aren't terrible about this game. The graphics, decent. The music, serviceable. The idea in concept, not horrible, but just barely serviceable in a way that if you had this game as a rental and you had to get your money's worth out of it, you'd keep playing it. If you got it for Christmas and you only had a few Sega Genesis games, you'd keep playing it. If, on the other hand, you had any other platform games, you would play them instead of this. You would play something better, like Rocket Knight Adventures, or Sonic the Hedgehog 3, or Gunstar Heroes. You would play something that was actually a lot more fun. Did I mention that when you bop into enemies, not only does it slow your momentum when you were trying to get up speed, it decreases your health. So you lose the electricity, and sometimes when you hit a spike, it's like up to half of the electricity that you had, which leads you to getting that wee 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 alarm that much faster. And again, it's very cheap when you hit those spikes. Like, you're trying to get up speed because it's called high speed area, and then you're just going to hit the spikes because you were running fast and couldn't see what was in front of you. It teases you. The game Socket is a cock it because it cock teases you into thinking, now I can go fast, and then just ruins your expectations of moving fast by doing damage to you in every conceivable way possible. In fact, I got so frustrated at one point here, I just stopped trying to collect anything because you can't even run uphill. I mean, okay, Sonic loses momentum going uphill, but not to the degree that the protagonist of this game does. So finally, I was just like, screw it. I'm not going to look around. I'm not going to collect anything. I'm just going to start running and hope that I can keep up enough momentum to keep going without getting slowed down trying to go up a hill. That's all I want to do, is collect enough electricity to survive, get up to running speed, and then see if I can run all the way to the end of the level. That doesn't make a fun game when the idea when you're playing a game is, I just want to get through it as fast as I can without getting stuck. That's not a good game. That's a bad game. Oh, but I digress. Again, this is not the worst game. I mean, at least it's playable because you can control your character to the degree that you would want to. He does respond well to your button controls. It's not like the mechanics are badly programmed. It's just, when you call this game derivative of Sonic the Hedgehog, that is entirely the problem here, because it is derivative of only the parts that make Sonic not fun. The Sonic games where you crash into things and don't get to move fast and everything hurts. You have to tread slowly and carefully to proceed through levels. I think Sonic the Hedgehog, the first game in the series, is the most infamous example of that. In Sonic 2, you get to go fast some of the time. In Sonic 3, I kind of think they nailed it in that game, in that you really get to go fast in certain areas through the loop-de-loops and some of the momentum mechanics where you get running and you run up a wall and you're running upside down. That's the fun shit to do. That's the stuff that really makes a Sonic game good, is when you can get up speed and go crazy running upside down and all around and loop-de-loop and through different areas, picking up rings, racking up extra lives, and then stopping to bop enemies here and there along the way. And the other thing that just makes this a badly derivative Sonic game is that in a Sonic game, if you went into a secret area like this, you would feel rewarded for it. You'd get to play a bonus game. You'd get some sort of thing that you wouldn't otherwise get to see. Here, it just feels like a dead end. It's like, okay, I got a 1-up and a checkpoint, and now what the heck do I do? How do I get out of here? I'm trying to jump, and I'm trying to land on the platform to jump out, and I just keep getting knocked back down. The level design, who approved the level design in this game? Again, more cheap spikes that just drain your health. And you would think, okay, if this is like a Sonic game, maybe I can jump into the wall, jump through the wall somewhere, because you can do that in parts of Sonic 3, for example. And you look around and you see this like cheese grater, but it takes you right back down to where you were. And then by accident, you'll discover you can go left. It's like I'm traversing through a platforming game by going left. And I realize that probably should be a thing in most games, but there are certain expectations that have been built up over the years. And if you're going to try to be inventive and different and subvert those expectations, you better make a damn fun game and reward people for screwing with them. Like, haha, see, now you're going left instead of right, but oh look, you get to do all this cool stuff. And this isn't cool. In fact, this became tedious very quickly because this checkpoint kept taking me back to the 1-up and forcing me to go back up through this area again. So it was like, I'm in some kind of purgatory right now where I can never truly get a game over because every time I die, I'll get taken back to this 1-up and I'll get an extra life and I'll have to do all of this over again. So I'm guessing that was a design choice because they wanted to keep this friendly for kids. But what appeal does this have to kids? Okay, this is another nitpick I'm going to make, but as long as I'm on a rant here, let me just go whole hog. Who is this designed to appeal to? This robotic duck-looking thing. There's no backstory, or if there is, I don't know what it is because I don't have the manual, and the Wikipedia entry is less than 100 words. I mean, there's no Socket the Duck cartoon. I don't think there's a Time Dominator first cartoon, or not one that I've ever heard of. Who was Vic Tokai thinking of? Did they think this is going to be our new mascot character? This is going to be our Bubsy? You don't want to be Bubsy. If you're going to be a mascot, you want to be Mario or Sonic. You don't want to be Bubsy. And I don't think anybody wants to be Socket. Can you see Socket costumes selling at the Halloween shop in October? I can't. Can you see Socket on a t-shirt? No. Can you see anybody wearing a Socket hat? Can you see anything about this that's marketable outside of it being a video game that's a platformer? Who is this appealing to? Who is this robotic duck-looking thing supposed to grab? Like, are you getting people who like Howard the Duck? I don't think they'd be into this. Are you getting people who are into Duck Dodgers? No, because it's nothing like that. You can't even get Donald Duck. I mean, there's just nothing. It's mind-boggling to think they designed this character and thought it had some sort of niche. But the fact that there's only one Socket game, at least one that I'm aware of, shows me that it was a colossal flop. In fact, if you look at the prices, if you go to some site like Price Charting, for example, and it commands like $30 complete and $60 to $80 new, I don't think that's because it's rare. I think that's because it just was such a flop that they didn't even make more. I think there's a low print run for this game, and it's obscure, and it's one of those games that's valuable, not because it's good, and not because it's in high demand, but because it was in low demand, so they cut their losses and didn't print more cartridges than they had to. But at least mercifully, I found my way to the boss of this first area, and despite being low on health and getting that stupid woo, woo, woo alarm, I managed to beat him. You see him, like, sparking in anger from getting hit too many times, and he takes off. I'm like, oh, sweet, merciful Cthulhu, I finally escaped this hell. But it's not over, because this rocket very slowly descends and very slowly opens, and somehow I just zoop right into the rocket, and off we go to where another level of this game. And quite frankly, I think I've had enough of Socket. Socket can suck it. This is Mr. MegaManFan, and as always, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next episode, hopefully with a better game Genesis does that Nintendo don't. Bye for now.